Well, hello and welcome to Influence Africa Youth Forum. This is a platform created by coaches of Influence Foundation, and we have a vision to facilitate progressive dialogue, positive influence, and education through this platform. Today is a very special day. I am very thrilled to serve as a host, joining my co host, Barrister Samuel Mendy. And together we are hosting a very important event, Africa Day celebration. If you've missed the introduction, I am Margaret Ellis, and I have a co host today, Barrister Samuel Mendy. Barrister, what do you think? Are you excited? Are you as excited as I am? Are you as prepared as I am for this forum today? This is Africa Day celebration. And I think that if there's anything that Barrister and myself are going to ask of you, our viewers, it is to prepare. We want you to prepare to engage. This is going to be a very engaging event. You don't want to miss it, especially if you are a son and daughter of Mama Africa. We want you to be prepared to engage. Invite your friends, invite your family, invite your leaders, your mentors, your teachers, your parents. Everybody needs to be in this dialogue. All ages are welcome. Everybody needs to be in this dialogue today. And together we will be celebrating Africa Day. Barrister Samuel, are you ready? Are you ready to engage? Because I am.
Hello, Dr. Margaret. I am more than ready to engage in this dialogue today. I think this conversation is very timely, at a point where Africa is facing significant challenges and bold opportunities. Looking at with what's happening, of course, in Burkina Faso, I think that is going to be one of our focuses in today's discussion. So I am very excited, and I hope that the viewers, our distinguished guests, our panelists, and all the participants are equally excited as I am. I look forward to this conversation. Dr. Margaret, over to you.
Well, with this excitement, Samuel, I don't even want to say anything. I just want to have you introduce the program to us because you are already on fire. So go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret. Today, we will be, hearing from Africa's giants. We have in our midst experts that are going to be, giving us, detailed information on the African Union's, theme for this year, which is reparation for African people. But to start off with, we will start off with an opening prayer, in the spirit of unity. We would want to have Mr. Simon Kangakan to lead us in the opening prayer.
Thank you so much, Barrister Samuel. Shall we take this moment to honor God in prayer? Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank and appreciate you for giving us life and the opportunity to witness today. Thank you for the celebration of Africa today. Thank you for all the leaders and everybody that has putting in the efforts into making today successful. We thank you for the resources and the talents that you have put within COIF to be able to bring this event to many people across the world. Thank you to the speakers that we are able to reach out to and they were able to accept our invitation. Thank you for that grace and thank you for that favor. Father, as we begin Africa celebration today, we pray that everything that the speakers have installed for the audience today, they will go home impacted, they will go home and their lives will be transformed. Thank you once again. We appreciate you for this opportunity and thank you for this life and the resources to be able to gather and witness Africa Day. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed. Amen. Thank you so much.
Welcome again. Welcome, Samuel. Just watching that video, the intro video, has gotten me all excited. I am bubbling with joy on the inside of me because, like you said, these are Mama Africa's children, and these are giants. We selected the best of the best, the creme de la creme, people
Yes.
who understand what we are talking about. Today's topic is justice for Africa and the people of African descent through reparations. We have heard this ringing in the hallways of the African Union in 2025, but we don't want it just to be a theme on the wall. We want to bring it home. We want to be part of this conversation. And we have selected the creme de la creme of Africa. People who understand what justice for Africa and African people of African descent means through reparations. And I am thrilled that we'll be hearing from Dr. Astel Collins, all the way from Guyana, y'all. I mean, Guyana is in the house. And then we have all the other speakers. What a day, what a day, what a day. Samuel, what do you think? Are you as excited as I am?
Indeed, Dr. Margaret, what a day. I am very excited, honestly. And I wish I could see the reaction of the audience, really. Is that possible, Doctor? Can we see the reactions on the chat somewhere? Is it possible?
Yes, yes, we will
I
see
want
it.
to see how excited they are. I see
Yes,
you, Aminata Ture. I see you. Where is Bernadette? Is Bernadette on this call? Yes, Africa indeed deserves justice. I think that more than any continent, when we're talking about reparations, we are talking about compensation for an injury or an harm, that is done onto someone. And I think more than any continent, Africa is very deserving of reparations. But of course, we have our panelists to take us through that. And Dr. Margaret, when I say I am excited, I think that's an understatement.
yes, I can feel you. I can feel you, Samuel. That's why on this high note, we want to just go ahead and dive into the Africa Union, anthem. I believe that with that anthem, all of our spirits are going to be uplifted. We are going to dive into this conversation with so much zeal, so much joy, so much excitement. We are not coming to this conversation as victims. We are victors. We are Africa's children. We are Africa's tree of life. So I think let's just go ahead and get the African Union anthem to get us to the place where we need to be emotionally and mentally, so we can dive into this conversation proper. So if you are just joining us for the first time, invite a friend and tell them to invite a friend. All those groups that you are in, those gossip groups, and the groups where you are learning, the groups where you are working on assignments together, every group that you belong to, this is the kind of conversation you want to invite the groups to join. Because I can tell you, if you are a gossip group, the gossip is going to sizzle after this conversation today. You are going to have something to gossip about. If it is an assignment group, a school group, an organizations group, every group, after this event today, you are going to have a lot to dialogue about. So without much ado, let's dive into the Africa Union anthem to get ourselves prepared for what's coming.
Let us all unite and celebrate together the victories won for our liberation. Let us dedicate ourselves to rise together to defend our liberty and unity. Oh,
Wow, wow, wow. This is not just an anthem. This is a call to action. And there are two lines there that hit me hard every time I hear this anthem. When I hear them sing, let us make Africa the tree of life, it means Africa is not a dead continent. It's a thriving continent. It is alive. Mama Africa has a breast and can feed the entire world. Let us make Africa the tree of life and let us give our best to Africa. We do not deserve the least, we deserve the best. And that's what we are going to talk about today. We're not going to look at this topic, reparations, from a victim mindset or victim lenses, but we're going to look at it from a victorious lenses. How do we step up? How can Africa emerge as the giant of the world, to be the tree that gives life to our world that is in crisis right now? The answer lies in Africa. Peace can only come from Africa. So let us all rise up and make Africa the tree of life. Let us all rise up and give the best to Africa. That's what we are going to talk about. Samuel, I will allow you to, because you know what? I'm already in the zone. So I have to restrain myself so I can give you an opportunity to speak.
Indeed, doctor. I mean, you're on track. I think that today we are here to discuss where we are, as Africa. Africa is indeed the tree of life, and I don't think as Africans we realize the pivotal role that we play in the world's economy. So I think today we are here to discuss where we are as Africa, where we want to go and how we are going to get there. So, doctor, I think we need to get deeper into the program. I
Yes.
think it is time that we bring up one of our brightest mentees at Coaches of Influence Foundation, who is no other than Miss Christine Gomez. So I'll allow you, Doctor, introduce Christine.
Yes. Thank you very much, Samuel, for that honor to introduce an honorable. Christine Gomez is known to COIF, to us, as Honorable Christine Gomez. And she's honorable because Christine is a secretariat member of one of our flagship programs, Coaches United Nations Simulations. And Honorable Christine Gomez is the Under Secretary General for Finance. She's a banker by profession. She's an elegant young lady. She knows how to manage money. She loves to save. And that's why we put her in charge of finance for the Coaches United Nations Simulation. She's an integral part of the Secretariat of Coaches United Nations Simulations. I have the honor of laying the red carpet for Honorable Christine Gomez to share her opening remarks. Christine, you're welcome. Christian is in the Gambia right now, so I don't know what's going on that end. Probably, I'm just saying, possibly, Christian is going through some internet or electricity crisis on her end, because I see she's not here right now. So we are not going to wait. Africa is moving on, and we have no time to waste on lack of electricity and lack of internet. So if that's the challenge, we are going to move on, Samuel, and
Indeed,
introduce our
Doctor.
keynote speaker,
If
because
you
we don't
notice,
have time. We have no time to waste. We have an important topic to dialogue about. We have no time for internet and electricity challenges. Would you agree, Samuel?
I agree 100%, Doctor. That is why I am sitting in the darkness. Our rats have run out, and I am ensuring that by all means I am in the program. So you can see I am sitting in the dark. I use my
Wow.
phone to get internet so I could join the program. So I don't think
Wow.
anybody has an excuse to not be here because of lights. We have internet. But thank you, Dr. Margaret. I think it is really time that we get into the nitty-gritty of tonight, of this afternoon, while we are here. Without wasting much time, let's go to the keynote speaker, who is in the person of Dr. Esther Collins. So, tech team, can we have Dr. Collins's bio, please?
Dr. Esther Collins is one of Guyana's most distinguished youth ambassadors and a global leader renowned for his impactful contributions. As a United Nations Goodwill Ambassador and global representative for the Golden Rule International, Dr. Collins has been a tireless advocate for leadership development across the Caribbean and beyond. He is the CEO of BDI Leadership, Better Defined One, and holds the distinction of being the youngest chairman of the board for Habitat for Humanity Guyana. Dr. Collins has served in several key roles, including youth advisor for the PANCAP Coordinating Unit, CARICOM, and special envoy representative to the government of Guyana on behalf of the United States Global Leadership Council. His influence extends to Africa, where he serves as ambassador for the Caribbean to the African Diaspora Union, AFRIDO, and the executive liaison advisor to Okogaiman Obrempontu Kobina Amesawan, the development king at large in Ghana. Dr. Collins is the executive director for Zoe Wins Consultancy and was recently appointed as the vice president of operations for Holder Resources Incorporation. Dr. Collins' achievements have earned him numerous international accolades, such as the Nelson Mandela Peace Award, the United Nations Golden Rule International Award, and the Global Leadership Award at Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. His dedication to fostering civility was recognized through the establishment of the Golden Rule Civility Day on his birthday, September 22nd. As the keynote speaker, Dr. Collins has addressed audience worldwide, inspiring change and excellence in diverse fields. His exemplary leadership and advocacy work have led to the creation of the Estelle Collins Global Inspiration Award, an honor bestowed globally.
Thank you very much for that introduction of Dr. Collins. But I know Dr. Collins personally, and I don't think that introduction did justice to who Dr. Collins is. I know that bio did not even say what I'm about to say. Dr. Collins is not just a friend to me, he's a colleague, he's a partner, he's somewhat of a mentor, very intuitive, very engaged with Africa. Anytime I get on the phone with Dr. Collins, we have a rich conversation. The man that we're about to hear from, whether it is from Guyana all the way to South Africa, the entire Caribbean, and everything in between, this man has influenced. He has raised, developed, equipped, empowered young people and leaders all the way from the president down to the youngest citizen in the Caribbean. He has influenced. He was a direct mentee of Dr. Miles Monroe. So you can imagine, Dr. Monroe has deposited a seed in Dr. Collins. That's the man we are about to hear from. Dr. Collins, we honor you. We celebrate all the work that you have done to contribute to the building and the rebuilding of the continent of Africa. We are so honored to have you today to talk to us about reparations and justice, because you are at the very tip of what is going on. You have many examples in your nation that we can all learn from. Thank you so much for always accepting our invitation, and thank you for serving the continent of Africa. You are welcome. You can take over.
Thank you
Dr.
very much
Collins.
for having me, and I'm deeply honored. I know we don't have much time, so I'll go straight into the business. And I'm so honored. Um, Esteemed young leaders of Africa, distinguished champions of our shared heritage, I extend my warmest greetings to each of you. History has always been determined by those who dare to act, who saw beyond the present and envisioned the future worth fighting for. It is our responsibility to embrace the challenge to reclaim Africa's promise that was built on centuries of ingenuity, culture, and strength. Through unity, resilience, and bold leadership, we are destined to be the architects of a new era not defined by past struggles, but an era of progress, sovereignty, and renewed identity. The weight of our choices, both personal and collective, becomes the foundation upon which history stands. Some movements, some moments define us, while others quietly push the world forward, unseen but no less significant. We are the authors shaping a legacy that will echo beyond our time. But every action, every movement, every decision made today is a stroke in the narrative. The question isn't just how history will judge us, it's whether we will seize this moment to shape it in a way that generations to come will reflect with pride. What role do you see yourself playing in this unfolding story? As we come together to commemorate Africa Day, we honor the visionaries who dare to dream of a free, united, and flourishing continent. This year's theme, Justice for Africa and People of African Descent Through Reparations, calls not just for reflection, but for action, ensuring that justice is not merely symbolic but transformative. This movement has progressed with decades of advocacy advancing the conversation. Young people of Africa and the African diaspora, you are the lifeblood of our collective identity, the thinkers, the dreamers, and the pioneers of tomorrow. You inherit a legacy interwoven with creativity, innovation, and resilience, for it is resilience that has always been the pillar for progress. Moreover, the legacy we inherit is not just a history to be remembered, but a force to be activated. Yet, this inheritance carries a profound duty to embody the change we seek as we break free from the chains of mental slavery and the constraints of a conquered mindset. True emancipation begins within, and we shall reclaim our power and arise as catalysts for change. It was Frederick Douglass who declared, knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. Today we stand at a pivotal moment, shifting our collective consciousness from subjugation to strategic empowerment, from being dominated to coordinating a movement of conquest through dialogue, unity, and action. It was Dr. Carter Woodson, author of The Miseducation of the Negro, which was published in 1933, affirming that if you can control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his action. When you determine what a man shall think, you do not have to concern yourself with what he will do. If you make a man feel that he's inferior, you do not have to compel him to accept an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. If you make a man think that he is justly an outcast, you do not have to order him to the back door. He will go without being told, and if there is no back door, his very nature will demand one. Those words remain a powerful testament to the lasting impact of mental conditioning and systemic oppression. His insights challenge us to recognize that true liberation begins in the mind. By reclaiming our narratives, reshaping our perspectives, and refusing to accept imposed limitations. Furthermore, it reinforces the urgency of dismantling structures that perpetuate inferiority and exclusion, not only externally, but also within ourselves and our communities. It speaks directly to the importance of education, self-awareness, and self-determination. In the context of Africa and the African diaspora, how do we translate knowledge into an actionable plan? How do we see this idea shaping the efforts towards justice and reparation? Besides, reparation is more than addressing historical injustices. It is about building systems of fairness, equity, and opportunity that will endure for generations. It is about transforming pain into power and dreams into reality. But reparation is not just an external demand. It is a personal and collective commitment to ourselves, our communities, and the enduring promise of Africa and its people around the world. So how do we, the youth, lead this charge? Allow me to share three essential principles. One, we have to redefine our identity. Justice begins with self-awareness. Understand who you are, your history, culture, and power. The stories of our ancestors are not only tales of struggle, but also of resilience and triumph. Educate yourself about Africa's immense contributions to global civilization in science, art, philosophy, and innovation. Walk boldly, knowing you are the descendants of greatness. Two, transform system. Justice is not a passive ideal, it requires action. Whether through innovation, advocacy, and entrepreneurship, strive to dismantle systems that perpetuate inequality. Lead with integrity, challenge injustice, and create opportunities for others. Be the generation that redefines Africa's narrative, from one of adversity to one of influence, self reliance, and enduring change. And lastly, unite for change. Africa's strength lies in the complexity of its diversity and the simplicity of unity. Collaborate across borders, cultures, and disciplines, leveraging technology and networks to amplify your voice. Fight not only for your own rights, but for the dignity and justice of all people of African descent worldwide. Together, we will dismantle systemic injustice and rebuild with civility and dignity. Youth of Africa and the diaspora. Let today serve as a rallying cry. Justice for Africa is not a distant dream. It is a promise we must fulfill. Let us claim with what is rightfully ours, not with anger, but with unshakable confidence in our worth and potential. Let us honor the sacrifices of our ancestors by forging a future where justice, independence, and interdependence prevail. As we leave today, remember the change you seek begins within you. Dream boldly, act courageously, stand up unapologetically for justice. The legacy of Africa and its diaspora is one of boundless potential, waiting to be realized by those who refuse to be silenced by historical prejudice. Martin Luther King Jr. reminds us to keep moving. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Let us not merely commemorate Africa Day, but actively shape its legacy. The world is indeed watching. And today, let it witness a future rising, bold, unwavering, unstoppable. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Dr. Collins, I was busy writing. I'm writing. I don't know about what the young people are doing, those that are watching. Barista, I don't know what you were doing, but
Doctor, I was taking down my notes.
I was busy writing. Let me share with you what I the little nuggets I got. Dr. Collins, stay right there because you are a powerful voice in the Caribbean, and like I shared, from Guyana to the Caribbean, all the way connecting to South Africa and the other parts of Africa. Your voice has even reached countries you haven't visited yet. You have never been to the Gambia, but there are so many young people right now on this call today from the Gambia who are in our mentorship program that have read your story in Legacy Beyond the Grave, and they are commenting, oh my goodness, to have read his story of influence and how he turned the Caribbean and Guyana and South Africa upside down, and now to see him live and hear from him, this is so thrilling. But beyond just being a leader, you have raised young people. You have brought people out of nothing into becoming, into the place of leadership in Guyana and beyond. And you are talking to the young people as an ambassador of the young people, as a voice that represents the young people who understands what they go through. You are talking to the young people on this platform today. These are Africa's assets. And this is what you said. You kind of addressed them. You said you, I don't know why we have an echo. Maybe somebody needs to mute. You said, youth, you are the lifeblood of our collective identity. And you know what? Coaches of Influence Foundation, we are focused on doing three things. helping youth and women to discover their identity so they can influence impact. Because when somebody is lost and don't know who you are, there is nothing you can do to create impact. And we in Africa we have been deceived to think that impact is many programs. No, impact is self-identity. That history that is being hidden from you is your pathway to making impact. Until we know and discover who we are, until we discover what we have been created to do, until we discover what has been done to us and how we can come out of the mental slavery, we cannot make impact as a continent. And so you are telling these young people, you focus on self-discovery. And you said true emancipation begins from within. That is a discovery, it's a connection. The answers to our crisis are not without, they are within. So the more we dig inside, the more we spend time to develop the person, the African on the inside, the more we get close to coming out of slavery and bondage. And you said reparations. From what you said, I got that. You are saying reparations is more than addressing past injustices. This is about building a system. Young people, don't allow people to carry you along in their emotional battles, taking up the streets and shouting and screaming and sweating. Some of those, things that you are doing are valuable. They are important. But more so, you have to go into it if you're marching with understanding that this is not about expressing, fighting for just emotionally to get out of injustices, but this is about, as young people, how can we come together? What system can we create that will get us out of mental slavery? A system that will break free the shackles of neocolonialism, because the old colonial master was France, was Britain, was Spain. But today we have a new colonial master eating into our continent, and we are busy talking about the past and we are missing the present. So I want us today, after this event, not to talk about Africa's issues, but Dr. Collins says educate yourself. Know your history. I'm telling you, you can never be enslaved until you lose your history. That's why that history is hidden from you. Most of you know all about Britain and USA, and you are in the news and you know everything that Trump has said and done, but you don't know what's happening in your backyard, because we have been groomed to just make life about other people and not about us. It's time to look within. Let's go back to our history so that we can come out of slavery. And the last thing, Barrister, before I allow you to share with Dr. Collins what you got, is that reparations is not about expressing emotions. It's about creating a pathway that will showcase and shine the light of what Mama Africa can give to the world. The breast of Mama Africa is waiting to feed the world, but the people of Mama Africa need to push that breast in the right direction. So I am thrilled. Thank you, Dr. Collins. Thank you. I hope that the young people took notes. Can you give us your comments in the? Can you tell Dr. Collins what you got from his presentation? Can you tell him your takeaway that you're going to implement after this program today? Barrister, you can take it away.
Well, Dr. Margaret, at this point, honestly, I think you have summed everything that I've written down. I don't know what to say, but I just want to thank Dr. Collins for those powerful words. As a young African, I've learned so much from such a powerful speech that you've given, and we'll take that, into advisement. We did talk earlier about how Africa is the tree of life, and imagine, to your fourth point about unity, that we should collaborate across borders. Imagine if we practice that as Africans, imagine what the outcomes are going to be like. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor. Doctor, I wish we can read out what the reactions are from
Yes.
from the participants. I see so much of their comments on my screen, but I don't have access to them. Wow, I don't know how to pronounce this name. Um, it's Cosintwa. She says that the Africa we want will be changed by us. the Africans, not an outsider or foreign aid. Thank you so much, Kosintwa. Can we have someone else, please? Tech team. Yes, Kosintwa is really on fire. Yes. Martin Mendes says that Africa for Africans, breaking the chain of neocolonialism is indeed the goal. Yes, thank you, Martin. Thank you, Martin. We also have Christine. Oh, Christine is back. Christine, I hope your lights are back. Khadijatu Kamara says, the change you seek begins with you. So insightful. Thank you for the enlightenment, sir. Thank you, Dr. Collins. I think our participants have really learned a lot from your program. We have George Mara, who is the president of the Coaches of Influence Foundation. He says that redefine identity. I think he was, laying down the points that he got from Dr. Collins's address. He said that redefine identity, transform systems, unity, meaning unite the chain. He says, thank you for the share, for these important tips, rather. We need to keep up accelerating in our various territories. Thank you, sir. Yes, doctor, I think we need to, release Dr. Astel. Dr. Astel, we are really grateful. Thank you so much. I think I need to take time after this session and really immerse myself into everything that you have said. I really need to go back and look at this program again.
Yes, this was good food.
Yes,
and
indeed.
It's not meant to just be consumed during this program. We need to keep eating and biting into it every now and then. Young people, take this advice, take the words of Dr. Collins to heart. I mean, he is telling you the way to come out, the way to lead Africa out of the crossroads is for you to get educated, is for you to get soaked in, is for you to put your, organize your emotions, express the right emotions, take the right actions, and Africa will come out. On that note, we have reached the peak of the event. We are diving, we are accelerating. We cranked up the engine. Now we are in the air and we are about to go into the clouds. But before we do that, we want to bring you a video, an introduction video to what the panel discussions, what we are about to experience today, and hearing from the voice of the youth of COIF. What do they have to say about Africa Day? Let's turn our attention to the video.
Across the vast lands of Africa and beyond, in every community where people of African descent reside, one truth stands firm: justice is not a privilege, it is a right. Today, as we commemorate Africa Day, we do so with a renewed call for equity, dignity, and historic redress. This is a call for justice. This is a call for reparations. Gleaning from the African Union theme, Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through reparations, we acknowledge the deep historic injustices that have shaped our past, looms in our present, but must not define our future. The legacy of colonial exploitation, the scars of the transatlantic slave trade, and the systemic inequalities that persist today demand more than mere recognition. They demand intentional action. For centuries, Africa's world built nations for beyond its borders, while its people endure oppression, displacement, and discrimination. Today, we stand together in the undeniable truth that reparations are not about asking for favors, but a demand for rightful redress. They are about acknowledging historic wrongs and committing to restoring what was taken. Our identities, our resources, and our place in global history. Reparations are more than financial compensation. They're about justice in all its forms: economic empowerment, cultural restoration, fair representations, and policies that uplift African nations and people of African descent worldwide. It is a movement toward rebuilding, reclaiming, and redefining our future on our own terms. As we celebrate Africa Day, let this be more than a moment of reflection or a colorful event. It must be a call to action. The time for justice is now. The time for reparations is now. Together, we rise to shape a future where Africa is not just heard, but empowered, where its people are not just acknowledged, but uplifted. Happy Africa Day. One continent, one people, one destiny.
One continent, one people, united, holding hands. Samuel, I think that statement touched me deep.
Indeed, doctor. Indeed, doctor. That statement has really, really touched me. I don't know who was the voice behind, this video, but
That's Sainabu Jata, our Alumni Association member, and the Honorable Sainabu Jata.
I think she has conveyed the message so profoundly. Well done, Sainabu. Well done. COIF is indeed proud. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Doctor, is this the time that we go directly into the agenda of the day?
Yes, this is where we are ready to introduce our panelists. We have 3 panelists, and then we are going to hear from Professor Justice. We are going to hear from Mrs. Jane Senghor. We are going to hear from Mrs. Auntie Adele Sose. And then when we wrap up the panel discussion, then we will hear from our very own Professor Michael Banutu Gomez to wrap up. And he is a professor in the USA, a Gambian, a Pan-Africanist. And he is going to wrap up the dialogue today with his presentation based on what he has been teaching. And so we are about to dive into the meat, and we are not just beginning, we are going into the clouds now with the panel discussion. But before we do that, Samuel, I think we need to allow the panelists to be introduced. We have a video introduction for them. Then we can welcome them and begin to navigate the panel. Thank you very much. We are ready for the introduction of the panelists.
Fatou Jane Senghor is a Gambian jurist, human rights and freedom of expression advocate, passionate about equality, women's rights, and social justice. She served in different capacities within the International Free Speech Organization, Article 19, for 2 decades. In 2010, she established Article 19's West Africa office in Senegal and supported advocacy and reforms programs in Tunisia from 2005 to 2012. In 2021, she established the Center for Women's Rights and Leadership, a platform to advance women's rights, political participation, and leadership in the Gambia and Africa. She is a fellow and Amuje Leader 2023 of the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Presidential Center for Women and Development. She serves as an independent expert on governance and human rights for many organizations, including UNDP Africa, Afrobarometer. She is part of the eminent group of 4 co-mediators or negotiators for the resumption of the constitutional reform process of the Gambia since July 2023. She holds an LLM degree, Diplôme d'études approfondies DEA in Economic and Communication Law, a master's degree in International and European Law at the University of Toulouse Capitol, France.
Professor Justice Navagnan. Justice Navagnan is Technical Director and Cluster Lead for Primary Healthcare Efficiency, Effectiveness, and Equity at Management Sciences for Health. He is also a Professor of Health Economics at University of Ghana School of Public Health. Previously, he served as Foundation Head of the Health Economics and Financing Division at the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, an autonomous technical health agency of the African Union based in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. He is a public health researcher with extensive experience in teaching and mentoring students and engaging with policymakers from various countries in Africa. Navignin has a long history of leveraging research and health economics evidence to strengthening public health programs, including in over a dozen countries in Africa. He frequently advises major global health players, including WHO, UNICEF, the World Bank, USAID, and others. He has served on over 30 at the national and global levels. Member of the Technical Advisory Panel of the Pandemic Fund hosted by World Bank, Strategic and Technical Advisory Group on Infectious Hazards of Epidemic and Pandemic Potential. The Gavi Evaluation Advisory Committee, co-chair of the Ministry of Health Ghana's Health Technology Assessment Technical Working Group, and member of the advisory body of the Global Health Economic Center at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. He is a past chair of the Global Evaluation and Monitoring Network for Health, a network of 11 universities in 9 countries across Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the United States of America, leading monitoring and evaluation, capacity strengthening, and technical assistance. Justice has published over 100 peer-reviewed articles, book chapters, commentaries in the areas of health economics, financing, policy, monitoring, and evaluation. Adelaide Augustine Sose. Adelaide Augustine Sose is an educationist, gender specialist, and human rights defender. She is a former deputy chairperson of the Gambia Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC 2018 to 2022. Director of Schools 1990 to 1993 and Project Manager Women in Development Project 1993 to 1995. Director of Worldview the Gambia 1999 to 2010. At the national level, she has served on various boards as a founding member, chairperson, or board member, and has demonstrated her strong commitment to ensuring that the vision and values of the organization are upheld. These include the Board of Directors of the Forum for African Educationalists, FAWE, and many others. At the regional and global levels, she has served as a member of the Pan-African Education Policy Think Tank of Africa campaign, Network on Education for All, ANC-EFA 2017 to date, representative of ANC-EFA on the United Nations Girls Education Global Advisory Committee UNG-IGAC from 2005 to 2016 on the Global Campaign Against Poverty GCAP. Africa Chapter 2005 to 2010, co-chair 2005 to 2010, and to date is a GCAP Goodwill Ambassador. She currently serves as a member of the Institute for Integrated Transitions, the Gambia Transition Brain Trust, IFIT, International Advisory Council, January 2023 to date. Mrs. Sose served as resource person for the Dakar-based ECOWAS Gender Development Center, EGDC, from 2005 to 2016, and the main resource person for the development of the Gender and Transformative Leadership Model, 2013 to 2016, for the UNESCO Regional Office, Abuja.
Wow. Welcome to our panelists. Thank you for being here with us. We have already had Dr. Collins lay the foundation for what is reparations. So we are going to engage Mrs. Sose and Mrs. Jan Senghor to just take us a little bit into that, and then we will engage you, Professor Justice. So I want to begin with Mrs. Jan Senghor. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're excited to learn from you. So I want us to take us into the overview of what happened to Africa and how has it impacted Africa. I believe we know what I'm talking about. We are talking about colonialism. what happened and how has it impacted us. So we want to get a little bit more insight on that, especially for the young people. Some of them are just talking about Africa, this and that, colonialism, but they may not really understand the impact that it has on us and on all of us as a continent. So, Mrs. Jang.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret Ellis, for the invitation. And I'm very honored to share this panel with my mentor, Auntie Adelaide Sose, who has done so much for young women, young people, but for our country. So I'm very humble. And I was hoping that she would lay the groundwork so that I can comment, but I will attempt to give some reflection, and then I'm sure she can help us really navigate, and dive into some of the issues, because she's done extensive work, not on the theoretical level, but also as a practitioner. As you mentioned already, she's been in the TRRC and really looking at reparation. Also, thank you also, and I'm pleased to share the panel with other eminent persons, Mandy and our colleague from CDC from Ghana. Yes, I am very thrilled and happy Africa Day in advance. I think when the Organization of African Unity was set up, the continent was in a different level. 63 to now, a lot has happened. Mm-hmm. And I just want to underscore that there have been a lot of discussions around reparation, around justice for Africa and African people of African descent. But I think the renewed call and the way things are shaping with the young people, I believe that there's no turning back. We need to address this issue. It's beyond just the symbolism. It's beyond just, a nice thing to do. I think it's an imperative for social justice. It is an imperative for global peace in general. Obviously, history has taught us that, what happened, with the slave trade, with the colonialism after the slave trade, how the Western powers, transform, through moral imperative. They realized that slavery was no longer the thing that they can continue. It was no longer sustainable. So they've changed the narrative and they reorganized themselves and started another phase of colonization, which is like a prolongation of slavery, but in a form that was kind of acceptable to their own people. Because, of course, we all know that the resistance of the slaves across, especially in the Americas and beyond, and also the resistance of our leaders and the people on the continent gain momentum with also the support of people of good conscience in the different parts of the world, especially in Europe and America. And I think the culmination of those actions put pressure on those who were engaged in slavery to realize that it was no longer sustainable. And obviously the different revolutions and also the advance of technology, I think especially the industrialization, made it really necessary for them to change the paradigm and look into how to exploit. I'm just saying that to just say that they were thinking about and ahead how to exploit, because Africa, especially, was the ground, for to exploit natural resources, but also human resources mainly. Later on, when that was no longer fashionable, they realized that they needed to push and do more exploitation to sustain their different economies that were really, changing faces from being, agricultural, being, economies that were not that developed to the industrial area. So they needed more resources, hence the colonization and hence the further division of Africans. Obviously, all those things are in our history book. And Dr. Ellis, you mentioned we need to move on. We need also to stop being victims, but capitalizing and understanding our past, so that we can take it as a tool to push for our development, also to insist that justice must be done. I just want to say yes, justice, reparation for African and people of African descent. I think if you looked at since the conference on racism, the polemic around reparation, how the Africans were divided, I think we realized that we need to come together. And today the world is really in a bad shape. The questionable leadership we have around the world. You look at what happened this week. I think we cannot be quiet about what happened. South Africa, and how deep fake, how false information about Africa can be used really to further entrench discrimination and really celebrate injustices. Because what we've seen in the White House, I think it was really the most really baseless information used really to pressurize Africa to accept inequality and to push our countries, especially South Africa, that has gone through horrible apartheid, to keep the status quo. Just, I think these are important things, especially for the younger generation also to be looking into, to understand, what Africa has gone through from colonialism, from slavery, colonialism, apartheid in different ways. And now, with all the instability that we are having in the region, I don't think that we have enough information to understand why is it that we are having all these democratic backslide, we are having all these big men syndromes, all these military, take over. And I believe we need to interrogate what happened in the 80s with military regimes, how we got where we were, and now what is happening in the different regions of Africa. And I think is a result of a lot of exploitation and injustices within, and injustices also from the different actors that manage in general to change when it suits, so that they can further exploit. And the last point that I want to talk about is also the exploitation of our natural resources. And I think this is something that has been happening throughout, but the fact that more and more countries are discovering natural resources, oil and gas in the West Africa, we are seeing a lot of instability. And we need to question that also as part of this whole agenda of reparation. We cannot isolate, because if you are not stable, if you are not able to exploit your natural resources and invest in public service, ensure that the young people don't take, the risky boat to go to the Mediterranean and being, sent back in the Atlantic, sent back in those camps where they live in inhuman, and some die in the seas. If you cannot do those, I think it will be difficult for us to talk about reparation for Africa and African descent. It's a lot, of course. That's why I say we should not be looking at, and I like your intro, we should not be talking about us as victims. We need to also have an introspection. What went wrong, with us? And I want to say maybe for three things here before I back the floor. I think the lack of governance in our countries and unity among our leaders, I think, has not helped the agenda of reparation to move forward sincerely. And we need to be deliberate in our efforts to ensure that Africa speaks with one voice, but also with integrity. The other point I believe is around management of our resources and corruption and lack of accountability. Because I believe, if we want to really be part of the global discourse, if we want to be respected, and if we want our voices to be heard and our demands to be adhered to and be on the table, I think we also need to come with clean hands. Yes, Africa has suffered a lot of injustice, a lot of crimes, but also our leaders must come with clean hands and also ensure that they manage their countries well. manage this public service very well, so that all these issues that are important at the global level can be addressed properly with really a steady head. I believe the leadership is important, because we talk about a lot what colonialism, what slavery has done to Africa. This is something that we need to address, but we also need to hold our leaders to account, because if we don't do that, and if we continue to be complacent, I think these issues of reparation will never be addressed. They will just be swept under the carpet. So the last point I want also to say that I initially said, solidarity among ourselves, unity, but also I believe that we also need to look at our regional institutions that are advocating for all those issues, that are putting it at the table at the global level. We also need really to ensure that these leaderships and these people also have the expertise that is needed beyond the political will, but also they need to involve people of African descent. They need to involve the experts in Africa, so that our messages can be clear, our messages can be heard. And I think we need to create linkages with people in those countries where we are pushing their government to be accountable for the past crimes, past human rights abuses that Africa and people of African descent have went through. So just to say, yes, it's a very difficult matter. It has been with us for centuries, but we need a renewed commitment, a renewed approach, and also to ensure that we change the way we do things for people to respect us and for people to hear our voice. And we need to have the leverage. I think Africa has the resources. When you listen to people who already spoke and those people who are going to speak, and the resources we have on the continent, I believe we have what it takes to push for that agenda. But integrity and leadership do matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Jan Chengor. You nailed it. And I hope the young people are taking notes. I want to just add a little bit to what she closed with. She said that we do have resources. So, young people listening to us now and in the future, don't buy into the lie that Africa has nothing to offer you, that whatever you need is elsewhere. Let me tell you something. Sometimes you don't have to listen to people. You have to look with your own eyes. How many people keep flying into Africa? The very same people that are writing books and informing you that Africa has nothing to offer you are the very same people that are flying into the continent. So I want to say this to you. Where there is a carcass, the vultures gather. So if the vultures are gathering in Africa, it means there is dead meat in Africa. There is meat in Africa. That's why the vultures are gathering. So that is all I want to say, because you've addressed it very well. I don't want to add anything else. I just want to go to Mrs. Sose, hearing what Mrs. Jan, your mentee, has already shared. I believe you've mentored her well. Hearing what she has already shared, how she responded to the question of what happened to Africa and how it has impacted Africa, what would you say is the reason or the purpose of Africa arriving at thinking that we need reparations? For a long time, Africa, occupied the seat of victim mentality. We cried a lot about what the colonial masters did. We cried a lot about the impact of it. But how did we all of a sudden arrive at the place that, hey, something needs to be done. We need reparations. Mrs. Sose, I want you to educate us on that. Thank you. Oh, I think she just dropped. Did she just drop? Okay. So I believe she will return and we will still be able to pose that question. But Professor Justice, let me go to you right now. You've heard everything that Mrs. Jain Senghor said. Now, you are an expert, a professional in the health sector. And we know that colonialism and everything that Africa is going through, the looting of our resources, the injustices, the lack of, decent leadership, the leadership crisis that we have in Africa. When you put all of that together, and the fact that today we have a high number, that almost the 60% of Africa's population, or 63, because children are being born every day, is now made up of the young people. And we don't, it seems like the cake is not enough to feed all of Africa's children. So looking at it from that perspective, we know that there are some health issues there. So how do you think reparations, the mandate for reparations, relate to health of Africa? So in other words, we are saying, is the reparations a solution to solving the mental health issues that Africans are going through and the challenges in Africa? Help us, educate us on that, shine some light.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ellis. And it's a true pleasure to be on this panel. Very, very distinguished panel. And I truly shared, what everything that Dr. Collins said and Mrs. Ego. For us as Africa, I believe beyond everything else, reparations is also about taking charge, as has come out clearly from what they've said. So taking charge of our own affairs, and driving the future of our continent ourselves, not being driven by other people. And as far as health, if you look at the African Union, let me start by saying that I'm actually first and foremost an economist who plies his trade in health. So I'll mix a bit of both. If you pick the theme of the African Union for 2025, there are a number of implications specifically for health, but also for broader development. And I'll speak to 3 of these implications. And then I'll come back to whether or not we are taking charge of our own affairs. So first, and I'm happy, perhaps noting that my name has been mentioned more than 100 times already today, because I'm Justice. And so first and foremost, the theme speaks to justice in health.
Mm-hmm.
Colonialism has left in its wake systemic inequities and inequalities in access to health and access to many other things for the most vulnerable groups. I mean, we are talking about women, we're talking about children, but we're also talking about other groups that in some parts of our countries may not be seen as important. All of these groups are very vulnerable. And so how do we take advantage of this theme to correct some of those systemic failures? Because like someone said, justice is not a privilege, it's a right.
Mm-hmm.
This is where God has given to us. And all of us have a right to be Africans, have a right to live the African dream.
Yes.
And so we have that opportunity to correct these systemic failures left behind by colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
We also have an opportunity to correct other equity issues, particularly in financing of our health.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we saw that after many of our countries gained independence, starting with Ghana and then with many others, from 57 to 60 and all of that. Gradually, people began to be burdened by having to pay for essential services, for health, for education from their own pockets. I mean, in terms of health, we remember many of our countries are referred to as a cash and carry period, where women were detained at facilities, by simply going to give birth, and they didn't have money to pay. And I'm not saying those things are not happening now. I mean, that will raise the question of whether or not we actually have taken charge of our own affairs. But the point I'm making is social development and other development is a right for every African to claim,
Mm-hmm.
irrespective of their ability to finance from their own pockets. But colonialism also left in its wake, differences in access to essential services depending on one's ability to pay. And that is one other failure we need to urgently correct. That has, direct implication on with the African Union's theme for the year. The third one that I'll talk about is that we have an opportunity to really implement, specifically speaking to health, the health in all development policies. We know that education is very important. Food security is very important. I mean, every part of our economies are very important. But what is the importance of education if people don't have good health? And the other way around, right?
Mhm.
If people are not healthy, will they even be able to sit in classrooms and learn? No. We are focusing so much of our energy on financing security. And security is very important. I'm not saying it's not. If you look at Africa's security budget, it's huge. But the point I'm making is we have an opportunity to prioritize other less prioritized areas, such as health, because they play a very key role in all other development sectors. And so, with all of this, I would say that yes, we have been wronged through slavery, we have been wronged through colonialism, we've been wronged in many ways. It's time for us to reclaim everything that we have lost. And that means reclaiming our position and being in charge. Have we really been in charge, of our own affairs? We have not. We have not. It's been many years after colonialism, but we still depend so much on colonial powers. We depend so much on other people to tell us what to do and to donate for us. Look, Africa's GDP, the gross domestic product, which measures the size of Africa's economy, has grown tremendously.
Mhm.
I mean, in the 60s, in the early 60s, the whole of Africa, this was about $34 billion. In 2003, our collective economy was worth about $560 billion. Now, 20 years later, fast forward 2024, our collective economy is worth a little over $3 trillion. $3 trillion. Now, so you've seen a tremendous growth over a 20-year period. Have we seen a growth in Africa financing its own development? And here I'm not just talking about health, but I'm also talking about other development initiatives. The same as we've seen an expansion in growth of our wealth? No, we haven't. We depend on other people. Today, many of our countries depend on donors to finance the health sector. In fact, in some countries, up to between 40 and 60% of the total funding for health, comes from donors. Clearly, this is not sustainable. And we've seen the recent cuts. Some of you may have followed the conversation. The recent cuts and withdrawals from some donors have left a lot of challenges, not only for the health sector, but also for the other social sector.
Yes.
And the point I'm trying to make is that it is great to have ambitions. It is great to fight for reparations. It is great to hold people who have wronged us accountable and pay us back in whichever forms. It is great to get people who have taken what rightfully belongs to us, whether they're artifacts or minerals or any other thing, to get it back to us.
Right.
But of course, it is more important to take charge and drive our own future. We can never take charge of our future if we do not commit the little funding we have on prioritizing areas that reduce systemic injustice and inequity in health, in social development, and in other areas. So this conversation is important, but I do believe that the youth of today need to understand that it is not only for us to be following the theme and expecting that some people sitting in Addis will drive implementation. It is for you and I to look at the future of Africa and see and begin to do things very differently for the good of all of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Justice. I see my co-host is back. You did say something, you did mention something that's key that I'm going to just add a little garnishing to what you said, and then we can move on to Mrs. Sauce because she's back. You mentioned that we need to take charge. I think that is the point of the conversation. When I hear reparations and I see how Africa is being managed on a day-to-day basis, the very people that we are crying foul to are the very people that are funding things that are as critical as daily basic needs: food, farming, agriculture, health, education. They're funding everything. And this is, it reminds me of what my mentors, one of my mentors, when we're discussing Africa, one of my mentors said to me, look, you cannot take Pharaoh to court when you depend on Pharaoh's paycheck. If Pharaoh is giving you a paycheck, you cannot take Pharaoh to justice, to court. So when we are talking about African Union and all these organizations, we're talking about Africa reparations. Sometimes I feel like it's just decoration and something to keep these institutions engaged, to look like they're doing something. Because if they are serious about reparations and they're going after the very people that are responsible for where we are, then we need to disconnect from them financially. I mean, manage our resources, build our economic independence, so we can wean from their breast and begin to suck from our own breast. That's the only way we can look them eyeball to eyeball and demand reparations. But we cannot demand reparations today. I believe for right now, it's a conversation on paper. But for the young people, it is good to educate them that even though it may not happen in the lifetime of the current African Union, but this is doable. And we are showing them the pathway of how to do it. How to do it is to prioritize areas, sectors that are important, that will sustain and give life to Africans, which is health, education, and all these sectors you've talked about. And most of all, let's disconnect from aid. We do have, if the carcass, if the vultures are gathering in Africa, we have what it takes to maintain our countries. Thank you very much. Mrs. Sose, I'm glad you're back. Samuel, would you like to take on the question? I had asked Mrs. Sose the question about how we arrived at reparations, for her to give us her, to give us her input on how we arrived at thinking that we need reparations in Africa. Is that you, Mrs. Sose? Is that you with the noise in your background? Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
I'm currently fighting for my life with this internet.
Okay, I'll take over. You can drop somewhere. We'll excuse you. I'll take over. Mrs. Sose, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
You're muted.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Thank you very much. Sorry, I dropped out. But let me start, first of all, with wishing everybody on this platform and across Africa a very happy Africa Day.
Yes.
It is a day to celebrate, but it's also a day to reflect. Let me begin, before I answer the question, to say that I was very touched by the video, especially the last part. I almost wept when she said, one Africa, one continent, one people. And I said, but why are we not one people? Why are we not one Africa? In the scramble for Africa, the Europeans and the other colonizers came and separated communities, separated countries. And when we reclaimed our independence, instead of insisting that we were going back to being one people, we are fighting. I'm Anglophone, I'm Francophone. Look at what is happening in Cameroon. Look at what is happening in Somalia. Look at what is happening in Sudan. Why don't we say we are one people and go back to being one people, people who speak the same language, who share the same cultures? This, and you had said it beautifully, it is they have colonized our minds so much that we do not value anything that we have. And as the lead speaker had said, we have to reclaim our narrative. Africa has to reclaim its narrative. the narrative that was destroyed systematically over 400 years of slavery, and then by colonialism. People, the damage that has been done. And in Africa, we say, if you do not know where you are, where you came from, you will never know where you're going to. And if our young people do not know our history, they will continue to make the mistakes that they are doing now. There are a handful of people, whether elders or young people, who are really on top of issues. But a whole lot of others don't know the issues. From the TRRC, I learned a lot on human rights law. That when you say degrading behavior, you have to unpack what it means. And when I unpacked all this thing about the degrading behavior that was meted out on slaves, I came across 12 human rights abuses, which are all part of international human rights law today and part of the transitional justice system. The slaves that were abducted, in today's parlance, they are enforced disappearances because they took them away and they never came back. And the communities lost their people and never got them back again. And so along those lines, we unpack all those things that happened during slavery, the enforced disappearances, the killings, the sexual gender-based violence, the inhumane and degrading treatment, and you go down the line and unpack it. And then you say, never again will it happen in our continent and to our people. Yet we see our very leaders who are claiming for accountability of the perpetrators of slavery and of colonialism, carrying out that power over. It is power over, not power with. Instead of working with their people to gain the leadership that Fatu had spoken about, there is still power over. Don't ask, don't move without us telling you. Disparities in, how do you call it, in salaries, huge disparities. You see the poor, it's just like slavery. The people were unpaid. But now if you look at our nurses, our teachers, our security personnel, they are at the bottom of the heap. Their salaries can barely meet their needs. And then you have people at the top who are so well paid. So if you are telling those people that you were unfair to us, you did not pay us, you kept us under poor conditions, but that is what we are doing to our people. So if we are demanding reparations for the loss of our resources, and when I say resources, our human resources, because under slavery, we lost millions of people, the African continent. But in reclaiming our narrative, we look at those beautiful things that existed in Africa and are still existing. Africa was a beautiful continent. We lived collectively. It was not me, it was us. We had the collective. We worked together as a people. So one person was not suffering while others were enjoying. No, that did not happen. So I don't know, when we now started this disparity of me, then also the other thing that really that Africa needs to address is this leadership issue and the management of our resources. Right. Every day we see our resources and new resources are being found in Africa every day. And yet other people come, they dig it, they take it away. Just like they rubbished our indigenous knowledge. They said, oh, it is all mumbo jumbo, it is black magic. And then they took those very ideas and concepts and went and developed it into protocols and prototypes and sent it back to us. And for me, the most beautiful story I like in the slavery is the Onesimus, excuse my pronunciation of the name. This was this West African slave who introduced the protocols for the vaccines against smallpox in Boston. And this was in 17, but he only got recognition in 2016 when the Boston Times recognized his work as one of the 100 top Bostonians. So Africa had a history in science, in technology, in architecture, in all these other mathematics. I think I've said mathematics. But these people came and they just took it away and have made us to believe that nothing good can come out of Africa, which is the sad part. You spoke about it, Margaret. And a lot of good is in Africa. As you say, if Africa was so bad, then why are you coming? What is your interest in a continent that is so bad, if you are that bad? One. Then the second thing is, if Africa is nothing good comes out of Africa, why are you holding on to our artifacts? Give us back our property. You looted them from us, we want it back. You say we will not give it back to you. If you want, we can loan it to you, but they stay in our museums. You stole our things, and then you say, no, I've never heard of anything of anybody taking my property and saying, I'll loan it to you. So these are the things that Africa is genuinely asking for. And they have a basis to ask for the return of their artifacts, the how do you call it? Their cultural heritage, which they came and dismantled. But if you are saying now these people, they came and overpowered us, our young people, they know this, but they're trying to address it in the wrong way. This is why this illicit migration. They said, oh no, they came, they stole our properties, they exploited us, so we're going. But what they are failing to understand is that they have the structures to keep you out, to exclude you, which we did not have. So you can go all the way to Europe at great risk to yourself, because the same thing that we were running from slavery is exactly what you're going to find: enslavement, exclusion, human trafficking, and a whole lot of other ills that will happen. So it is really sad. Africa really has a case for asking for reparations. For all the harm that was done for over 400 years or more. But if that reparations is given to us, are we going to channel it the right way? And how do you call it? Reparations is really not only about money, it's about respect. It's about apologizing for the harm that you did. And some countries have apologized, but some countries are not willing to apologize for the wrongs that they have done. Memorialization, they are not willing to do as well. And we need memorialization so that from our own end, we can say, never again will this happen in Africa. And once we change our mindsets, then we will be able to move on, because our mindsets have changed. They've colonized our minds, and behavior change, communication is very difficult. But things like this program that you are doing is a huge and major step into changing the mindsets of young people. That yes, we can do it. Africa has the resources, it has the brains, it has the human resources, it has the natural resources, it has the marine resources.
Thank you very much.
So I just let me just finish that we have everything at our disposal to make sure that we rewrite our history and reclaim our narratives. Thank you very much, Margaret.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sose. We have one more question for you. The content that's the viewers give us feedback. Is this content rich or what?
Which I one? What I didn't.
What did you just say? No, I'm just talking to the viewers now. That we need your feedback. Send your feedback in. Let us know what you are hearing. This content is very rich, because I'm about to go back to Mrs. Senghor, Jane Senghor, to ask her last question, so because they have given us a lot of meat already in their responses. So I'm going to go back to Mrs. Jane to ask you your last question, so you can wrap up your contribution to this panel today. And that question is based on your work that you have done. I believe that you've talked about unity. You mentioned it. You've talked about justice. You've mentioned it. But that is your area. That's your area of professional development, your area of expertise. So I want you to close with this question. How do you think we need to emphasize unity among Africans in the quest for justice through reparations? Because when we look, Mrs. Jane Senghor, at our countries, even individual countries in Africa, we see the division when elections are approaching. When there are no elections, it looks like we fake a unity in our nations. But a year to elections, 2 years to elections, we begin to see the ugly face of division, because colonialism did not only enslave us, it divided us. And so that division, that seed is still planted in us and is still raging in our hearts. And because the colonial master has not stopped still dividing us. So what do you say, Mrs. Jai Sengor, is what, how do we need to emphasize unity among the Africans? I wanted to talk specifically about our nation, Africa, the Gambia. We have seen the ugly face of division lifting its head up in our society. And with division, we cannot build. We need to be united to build. That's why the master will never want us to be united. And so we have to come up with a strategy to unite. Mrs. Jai Sengor, take it over as you wrap up from this panel. Thank you. You're on mute. You're on mute, please. You're muted.
Thank you. So maybe before, just to underscore what Dr. Joseph, Professor Joseph said about public services, and I believe the crucial thing about us on the continent is that, we're seeing a degradation of public services across the board, despite the fact that, we have a lot of growth, we have more resources in terms of natural resources, we have more educated people than before. And for some reasons, some of the, public institutions are poorer in terms of, look at the public schools around.
Yeah.
Most of us, people like from my generation, and all the other people went to public schools. Today, public schools are deprived. You go to the public hospitals, most elites will go even to give birth in other countries. You see, the African elite don't even believe in their own continent. You've seen this kind of, you are leader in the country, you just don't believe in your own country. So you have to go out of your country to give back so that you can have the prospects of, being a citizen of another. What are we telling our children? I believe this is something that we also need to look. That's why I talked about integrity and accountability. Because if you want to take us seriously, we need to bring to the table people who really mean business and who are serious about Africa. Serious in terms of the way they govern their own countries, but also in terms of the ideal of African unity. You can't have these divisions around ethnic, religious, around also language. Just everybody talks about Pan-Africanism, but look at even the mere fact that you are in a meeting when people speak the same language. Let me just give an example: Senegal and Gambia. Sometimes you see people reluctant to speak one of the local language because they would prefer either to maintain, and in most countries you go to in the West, people just decided that, for practical reasons, look at the EU, for example, for some of the meetings, we'll just go ahead and speak English. It's cost effective because we are not going to spend a lot of money on translation. It also helps to unite. But in our region, in our continent, so I think we also have this division around Francophone, Anglophone, and then if you are in these gatherings, sometimes you will see the outcry of the Lusophone, the Arabophone. And I think these are also the things that are with us and we need to address. Of course, we don't have the African languages. We are not able really to, to get them to system. These are things that are very challenging. We have not done the right work. We have the numbers, but I think because of the colonial division that our leaders are perpetuating for electoral gains, it's difficult for us really to agree on even speaking one language in the public sphere. So coming back to the Gambia, with all that we've went through during the 22 years of dictatorship, we were really hoping that the unity that we, that brought us, that helped us to change, will be the cherished and will be used really to move the country to another level. Unfortunately,
All right, it looks like Mrs. Jai Sengor lost power there. She's frozen. She lost power. So, Barrister Samuel, I'll just have you take it from here and wrap up with the last question for Professor Professor Justice, and the last question for Mrs. Sauce, so we can wrap up the panel discussions and bring in Professor Bano to close the session for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret. I really apologize for dropping. The internet was really here. The lights just came back. So thank you to all our panelists so far. When I joined, I heard how Mrs. Sauce, I was speaking of how young people in Africa really understand what has been stolen from Africa, but don't really know how to recover it or how to get it back. And I wanted to ask her, that follow-up question of what does he think young people need to do in order to reclaim what has been taken from Africa. So after that, I will now move to Professor Justice. But I also would have loved for our participants to ask questions that they have in the chat so that we get the opportunity to ask them before we release our panelists on their behalf. So Mrs. Sauce, I don't know if you can hear me. By the way, I joined late, so I don't know if that part has also been addressed before I heard what you said.
I believe we can, Samuel Barrister, I believe we can proceed to ask Mrs. Sauce I believe that we can go on to ask Mrs. Sauce a very important question, which is, Mrs. Sauce, you have a very important element of the paper that you wrote, which is the framework. So I believe that that's what we want you to leave us with, to summarize the framework for us, the key elements. We want to hear the key elements that reparations framework should include as your closing. Thank you.
Okay. Definitely, I think that first of all, the framework has to be well articulated. If it is not well articulated, then it cannot be addressed. Just as when we were starting, I think it was the man who prayed, he talked about the resources being made available, and those resources have to be made available. And the resources is not only the resources about the way forward, but how you address each and every aspect of what you want your reparations program to look like. And these would include, of course, the need for proper communications. Communication is key. And anytime that you have communication, the proper channels of communication, then you will know how to address those issues. Fatu talked about a place at the table, but you can only have a place at the table if you are treated as an equal. If you are treated as an equal, sorry, I have a phone interruption. Sorry about that. I did not know I would have that interruption. So that is another part of the framework that needs to be addressed, is the communication, the resources, having a seat at the table. And right now there are all these international protocols and the transitional justice systems where if you are not getting answers, where you can go for redress. These are the places that you can go and put your case forward. You may win, because in some of these, but you have still these white supremacists sitting in those places and you may still lose. But then if you are well informed, and we have the people, Africa has the brains, we have the lawyers, we have the health personnel, we have all those things that we can bring to addressing the issues at the table. I think those are the key ones that I want to, in the interest of time, because there are many others, but I cannot go through all of them right now because time is not in our favor. But if we have those key ones, then I think Africa will be addressing the key issues about reparations, and not only, as I said, monetary reparations, but reparations in all its forms. Are you okay, Samuel, or you want some more? Samuel?
Thank you so much. I am okay.
Okay, okay
Thank
then.
you so much. Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Professor, just moving on, I will now move on to you. One of our panelists also mentioned earlier on of how, the reparations agenda, although may not be achieved in this generation or now, but, we are definitely going to have to make some efforts now in order to achieve it later on. So I wanted to ask you, in the next 5 to 5 years, what do you want to see happen regarding reparations?
Thank you very much, Samuel. Mrs. Sose has talked a lot, providing her framework. And I think that we want to see action. We want to see collective action. We're already close to half the year, right? So we don't want the year to end and quickly move on to another African Union theme of another year with very little action. We want to see tangibly Africa also take charge of its own affairs. I mean, you cannot wait. If you're asking someone to return, of course, they've wronged us and they will need to return all of that. But we cannot fold our hands, and wait for things to happen. We need to take charge of our affairs. People are moving on. Countries are moving on very gradually. I mean, not gradually, but very fast from aid. And we need to move on. We cannot continue to depend on the West for very basic health commodities like bed nets. We still depend on people to give us bed nets, to provide us ARVs, anti-malarials. The responsibility, every responsible government ensures that your people's lives are in your hands. I mean, there are certain things that we classify as national security, right? Because if other people provide for it, then it's a problem for you. I believe that social services, must be in that category, that we do not depend on other people. Because if people provide for you food, they could put anything in it, right? And if people provide for you medicine, those medicines could be anything. Now we complain about what's happening in many of our countries because of abuse of certain drugs, some of them coming from, the West and other places. I believe that the youth of today need to place special requests, not just a request, but place a certain form of pressure, positive pressure. I mean, I'm not saying go to the streets, but ensure that when political parties are campaigning, we ask them tangible, targeted questions and hold them to account. So that when they're in power for 4 years, whatever they promise to do, whether it's about health, it's about education, or any other things, they deliver these things for us. And hopefully we won't be having this conversation again, because in 5 years, things will look different when it comes to reparations, not only of us in Africa, but also concerned of our people who are elsewhere. I mean, in the diaspora, we need to be concerned about their welfare because they play a very important role in what we are and what we'll be. Over.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Justice. I see that Mrs. Jain Sengor is back. We'll allow her to close. Mrs. Jain Sengor, you can go ahead and share your parting words. And then we will thank all of you for participating in the panel today. We are about to wrap up. I wish we had all day because the conversation is very rich. So I'm even feeling moved and motivated that maybe we should have a part 2 of this. So we will think about it. If it's possible on our end with our calendar, we will engage you again for part 2 because this conversation is rich and this is exactly what our young people need to know. They cannot depend on the media to educate them on reparations and what actions they should take, because sometimes the media is not very credible. It's one-sided. It's all this. It's influence. They are funded also, and sometimes they are not speaking on our behalf. They are speaking on behalf of the one that feeds them. So, and that's something you alluded to earlier, Mrs. Jai Sengor, that, We have been given physical independence, it looks like, but we are still mentally and spiritually under colonialism, because the one who feeds you controls you. And so if we continue to run our countries on aid, we don't have a voice. We do not have a voice. So, and the second thing, my observation about what will really interfere with these reparations and what we want to accomplish is the fact that Africa is still depending on our colonizers or outsiders to define, to design the programs. So they give us money and they tell us exactly how to use the money. So they are telling us they have conducted research in our own countries and they know the problems more better than we do, and they designed the solution. And so we're just executors and we're just consumers of the money and whatever. We are not even thinking, we are not even connected. They have disconnected us, successfully disconnected us from our own communities, because we believe in what they tell us is the issue rather than us telling them what we need. So, and this is what I say to the young people: we can never depend on imported solutions to solve local problems. If we want to solve our problems, we need to design our solutions, because these are our people, these are our communities. We should know better than someone else. If they give us money, we need to tell them how to use the money. They cannot give us the money and design the program. So this is something that the young people need to disconnect from when they step into these seats of leadership and in the decision-making seats. They need to disconnect. We need to wean from the breast of the colonial master. Thank you very much. Mrs. Jai Senghor will allow you to close.
Yeah, maybe just to reiterate the need for justice. And
Yes.
justice must be done, but also the perception is important. Citizens must see that justice is done on their behalf, and it's people can go to, to the courts, to different mechanisms that are established, and get their rights, respected. Why I'm saying that, it goes beyond just the day-to-day justice. Is the restorative justice we talked about. In most of our countries, we've seen that the transitional justice processes have been just, kind of politicized. You hardly see, victim place at the heart of the conversation, at the heart of the reparation system. You've seen also in many places also that our own governments are not funding the justice system. They are not putting also the necessary kind of resources for the justice system to work. But importantly, also, they are putting people who will not be there for the citizens, but who will be there to perpetuate the injustices. And I think until we realize that all these things are not sustainable, all these things will not help us really to be the bigger, actors at the international scene. Because if we weaken our internal system, if we don't get the adherence of our citizens because they don't believe in the governance, because these young people don't believe in their countries. Why? And we need to ask, maybe this part two should be, yes, we are addressing these young people, but we are not addressing the issues that are affecting them. Why is it that they are not believing in the system? Why is it that they know it's dangerous? They can't even swim, but they are going to the Atlantic. They're taking this boat and going, and they know that if there's a small accident, they can perish, but they still go. I think these are the social justice issues, the justice issues that we need to talk about. Last point about impunity and the mismanagement of our resources. If you don't address issues of past violations, issues of inequalities, and you continue to perpetuate impunity, I think also it fits into, instability. And we are seeing it in the region. We are seeing it across Africa, despite all the gains, all the hopes of the 90s, in terms of democratizations, in terms of setting up the new institution, such as the ECOWAS, in terms of, the renewed, African Union, all these branches, the NEPAD, the APRM. I think we were really in a new phase in the early 2000s. So what happened? I think we need also to interrogate. We can't just superpose, mechanisms. And somebody mentioned it. I think Dr. Justice mentioned it. You can't just say, okay, it's another year for another team for the AU. What happened to all these institutions that we've said that never again? Because when you look at the Constitutive Act of the AU, it took stock of what happened from 63 to 2000, and they said never again. We want an AU that will not allow unconstitutional change of power, an AU that will be there for citizens, and then that's when we have the Constitutive Act of the African Union. And then now we started all these self, evaluation. Let's have a mechanism where we can evaluate each other, which is the APRM. Let's have all these NEPAT so that we can, harness our potential and, foster some growth on the continent. And these cost billions. So what did we do with all those things? So I just raised my case to say, yes, we need to get the wrongs addressed by others, but we need to really look into ourselves. We should stop the complacence if we want other people to respect us. And the world has changed. Auntie Adelaide mentioned it, Justice mentioned it. We are facing a new dynamics, fake news, lack of integrity in information, deep fake, and people just don't care about the truth anymore. So we have also to change the narrative and see the way we are doing things. Otherwise, the big powers are there. We all know what the game is today. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about, what is happening in the Middle East, what is happening in the White House. I think, we all know if we don't put our acts together and rise to the occasion, these things will be mere rhetoric. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Mrs. Auntie Adelaide Sose. We thank you for your contribution to the Africa Day celebration today, which is hosted by Coaches of Influence Foundation via our Influence Africa Youth Forum platform. And we are grateful for your contribution, your participation, and everything that you have brought to educate us, all of us, so we know how to position ourselves. So we are not just talking, like Mrs. Jain said, it's not just going to be a rhetoric. It's not just going to be a bunch of writing and meetings and conferences where we come up with all kinds of communique that never go anywhere, that never get anywhere. So it's time for action. It's time for Africa to arise. And this is the kind of education we need. The young people, before we go, we need to know what we need to, how we need to go. And this is what we are dialoguing about on this platform today. Mrs. Jain Senghor, thank you so much for your contribution. Like I said, I'm being inspired to go for part 2, and we'll let you know if that's possible in the near future, so we can continue this conversation. Maybe we bring you in. We have what we have a program within COIF. It's called the Upskill Mentoring Session. So maybe we will organize a mentoring session on this topic of reparations and bring you back in to educate our young people, continue to educate us on the reparations and the steps we can take to get engaged, to get involved, and to participate. Professor Justice, thank you so much for your contribution today. It's a pleasure to have you. Your brother is one of the speakers, is a mentor of COIF. And he is an active participation in the upskill mentoring sessions. So we will plan a mentoring session, upskill session, so we can bring you all again, whoever is available, to continue this dialogue. Until then, we thank you for your contribution today, and we hope to see you very soon. Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you. Samuel, I think we are ready now. I'll hand over Professor Banutu to you so we can get him introduced and he can dive in to close the session for us today on a very, very high note. But Samuel's internet keeps freezing. Samuel, are you there?
I'm still here.
All right.
Can you hear me though?
Yes, we can hear you very well. So go ahead and bring on Professor Banutu with an introduction of his introduction, so we can bring him on to close the panel today with on a very high note.
Thank you, Doctor. Well, before I do that, I just wanted to also say thank you to all our panelists for such an insightful conversation. And of course, the discussion or the conversation doesn't just stop here. We all need to collaborate and have a shared Pan-African in order to, achieve the reparations agenda. So thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to now welcome Professor Banutu, who will be giving a presentation. So I will now hand it over to the IT team to give an introduction, play an introduction.
Professor Michael Banutu Gomez is a professor at Rowan University William G. Roher College of Business. He received his PhD at Case Western Reserve University, Weatherhead School of Management, Department of Organizational Behavior in 2001. Professor Michael Barbanuto Gomez has presented papers nationally and internationally, published in the field of leadership, international business, managing in development countries, organizational behavior, strategy, international politics, and legal studies, measuring organizational leadership in Africa and change. He has reviewed papers for International Journal of Business Excellence, Journal of International Business Disciplines, and Journal of Current Research in Global Business, Academy of Management, and Association for Global Business International Conference, Thunderbird International Journal, Journal of Managerial Issues, and Eastern Academy of Management. Professor Michael Barbanuto Gomez received numerous research awards, both internal and external. He served in capacity of the senior editor in the European Scientific Journal, editor in the Journal of Economics World, Journal of American Academy of Business, Cambridge, and the Journal of Business and Retail Management Research, etc. Professor Barbanuto Gomez has conducted consulting for GEM, Global Excellence in Management, Innovation, nationally and internationally. He served as coordinator for Oxfam for West Africa and Horn of Africa. He has conducted sustainable development training for the UN, UNDP, UNESCO, World Bank, World Vision, etc. Professor Michael Barbanuto Gomez organized a conference on quality education and relevance from kindergarten to university in the Gambia in 2018. Currently, he teaches and supervises master's thesis students at the University of the Gambia, UTG, and is also a member of the Advisory Committee for the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science, and Technology in the Gambia. Professor Michael Barbanuto Gomez is also the proprietor of Banutu Business College in the Gambia.
Hello and welcome, Professor Michael Barbanuto Gomez. Thank you for joining us today, and we are ready to hear from you. But before he speaks, I just want to say this is another man that I have to say something about. He is my brother. He is a mentor. This is the man that introduced me to the first speaking engagement, national speaking engagement I had in the Gambia back in 2012, the Green Africa Conference. He was the one that recommended me to be invited to speak at that Green Africa Conference. And that was when I had my first national speaking engagement in the country, and it connected me to a lot of the other people, including the vice president of the Gambia. I got an invitation to meet with her after that presentation. Professor Barbanuto, thank you for all the work you have done in shaping the education of not only Rowan University in the USA, but your native, the Gambia University, all the contributions you've done, all the diasporans that you have brought back to the Gambia, engaged us, invited us to come back home and begin to contribute at the UTG as visiting lecturers. We thank you for everything you've done, and we cannot wait to hear from you. Thank you so much, Professor Barbanuto.
Thank you very much. I'm going to do the presentation. I have addressed all the 4 questions that was asked, but I heard from all the previous speakers, and everybody spoke well, and I thank them for their insight. And I also thank those who asked questions for clarifications and more explanations and so forth. Let me see if I can get my presentations up. Are you all seeing my presentation?
Yes, Professor, go ahead, please. We can see it.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I have to thank you all for inviting me. I'm really honored, and I'm happy that we were able to do this. It's an opportunity to share what we all have and also to learn from everybody else who's here. Your theme is justice for Africa and people of African descent through reparations. And I know we have been talking a lot about reparations. Everybody hears about reparations or read about reparations and so forth. But let me just address a little bit history of reparations and what happened to other groups of people and why not Africa. Okay. Now, we all know what happened to us, slavery, colonialism, but we also know that we also enslaved our own people as Africans. So we can't forget that. So we have to remember those things as well too. Now, we know that it's over 15 million Africans were enslaved during the transatlantic slave trade. Of course, the colonialists continued to exploit Africa and the African people, but also colonialists continued doing it because they were also supported by our own people, the African people. And we can't negate from that. We know what happens in South Africa, apartheid, and taking lands from people and so forth. But what happened to other groups of people? Let's say the Holocaust. What happened to them? Okay? Germany paid billions in reparations for the Holocaust. And the state of Israel. But nothing to Africa. Japanese Americans received compensation for their internment during World War II. Indigenous people in countries like Canada and New Zealand have received apologies, land returns, and financial reparations. All this has been done and given to other people who are not Africans. Why not us? Just bear that question in mind. Why not us? So I say, as people think about reparation, let's think about it as it's not a charity. It's not people feeling bad about us. No. Reparations are justice. We all know that. Injustice that took place in Africa. How do we claim it? So I'll take us how I define reparations. I said reparations is justice, unity, and honor for Africa and her descendants. If justice is given to us, then the question that the previous speakers talked about is, are we a united people? And how do we go about uniting the people of African descent? And if we receive reparations, what are the benefits? One, economic empowerment, educational advancement that addresses African child, healing and justice, restoration of wealth and resources, cultural renaissance, strengthening diaspora connections, not just in Africa, but wherever a Black person is. Reduction of global inequality will take place. The previous speaker talked about health, improved health care and well-being of the African people and their descendants. Institutional reform. All African institutions have to be reformed. Dr. Ellis talked about why are we still not able to lift ourselves where we are until today? Because we are just taking people and fitting them in these institutions that have been created not to help the African people, but to enslave the African people through mental slavery. Symbolic recognition and dignity. When are we going to be recognized that a wrong has been done to us? That in itself will provide us the opportunity to be able to lift ourselves and become dignified Africans. Access to education, innovation, and leadership programs. Now, I don't know who in Africa can stand up and tell me that they served as an educational advisor for US, UK, Germany, France, and so forth. Why are we still having educational advisors from Western world to come and tell us how we need to operate our educational institutions? That is what I call inside-out leadership. And that's something that is lacking in Africa. Preserve Africa's history and empower youth. Reverse brain drain with local opportunities. Africa is capable of doing what the West can do. But because we are mentally enslaved and we believe that anything from the West is better, any advice from the West is better, therefore we are going to remain to stay where we are. When are we going to disentangle ourselves from Western colonial powers so that we can also create our own way of doing, performing, leading, and running governments? Political resistance, this is the disadvantage of reparations. We have to be clear that people are going to talk about how that is not fair to them for when it comes to reparations because it was not during their time. that can create political resistance. And even in Africa, we will have disagreement. We have to recognize and acknowledge that. But the best way to deal with it is to craft a strategy that allows us to implement and address those challenges. Everybody knows that we have corruption in Africa and we can't rule it out. So we have to address our home first, and that is our governments, the African people in our own countries, and root out corrupt practices. Otherwise, people are going to say Africa is corrupt. If they're giving what they need for reparations, they're just going to use it for corrupt practices. Social divisions, legal complexity, distractions from present issues, because if we focus too much on the past, we are going to be distracted from present issues. Economic dependency, you heard from the previous speakers. They talked about all the development projects have been funded by the West or Asia and so forth, or the Arabs and so forth. Why can't we in Africa fund our own development projects? Okay. Symbolism, it might be just a symbol to show that they are taking a step, but that step have no substance in the lives of the African people, most importantly, the younger generation. Inconsistency across nations, backlash against communities, because they will still continue to divide us, because mentally, psychologically, in our own mindset, Africa, the African people are still dependent on the West. So how do we achieve reparations? Pan-African unity and coordination. What does that mean? That means when we have Pan-African organizations, we have to be proactive. It's not writing policies and creating institutions without action-oriented and holding ourselves what we call in business management by objective. Okay? International legal actions, creating strategic global alliances, diplomatic pressures on all sides. No African nation can back out from it. And if they back out, there should be consequences against that African nation. Economic policy, leverage, and so forth, that addresses reparations. Grassroots mobilization, addressing and empowering youths so that they can take it up. Historical precedents, repatriation and land restitution in South Africa, for example. Okay, reparative justice funds can be created where if the money is received, it can go there. But there must be a proactive accountability. Policy integration in development plans. So I have 10 recommendations that are realistic. We don't need so much meetings and gatherings just to talk about this, but there's something that can be done. Debt cancellation, return of all stolen artifacts, reparation trust fund can be created with monetary accountability, educational programs that are accessible with quality, technology and skills transfer. It's not just about coming to train us, but the skills have to be nurtured and sustained in Africa so that we no longer need them. Land reform, formal apologies and truth commissions, citizenship rights. All these are things that can be done. So, in closing, I'm not asking for a riot, but I am also asking for citizens' proactive activity in demanding in every government in Africa that they need to address the needs and concerns of the African people by holding them accountable with a timetable. That every citizen should do that. We demand justice, not pity. Reparations are a debt owed to us. Let this Africa be a turning point to all of us. Justice for Africa, reparations now, dignity for generations to come. So I will end with a statement I have, and that is, for us to succeed in Africa and where the Black people are, we need what I call proactive, responsible leadership. That's what we need. We need proactive, responsible leadership. Because it is only through proactive, responsible leadership that we can disentangle ourselves from the West and create institutions that are geared to cater, sustain, and maintain the Africa and care for Africa and support Africa. And in doing that, we will also stop our younger generation who has more energy and who are the brain of Africa to be able to take over and stay in Africa and develop Africa. All this back way, greener pasture will be a thing of the past if every African country puts their act together. By that I mean they have to work for the welfare of the African people, not to be a puppet of the West, not to be policy implementations for the West, but implementing policy that addresses and that serves to the interests of the African people, not any other nations. And to trust our own people and to trust that we can do it if we unite. Without unity, we achieve nothing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your very wonderful presentation. I was trying to, jot down some of what you were saying, although I had glitches here and there with my internet. But I think from everything that you said, you've spoken on what the real benefits of reparations are for African people. You spoke on educational advancement for African people, also that it would bring healing and justice for the African people. You've also talked about the disadvantages of reparations. Interestingly, you've spoken on political resistance. You've also touched on how there would be implementation challenges when it comes to reparations. You also pointed out in your call to action that all we need is justice and not pity. We need justice for what has been done or occasioned on the African continent and not pity. So thank you so much. I think that your words were profound, and I'm sure that young people in this call have learned so much from your presentation. Yes, they're reacting in the chat, they're reacting their dignity for generations. Thank you, Professor Banutu, for that presentation. Our case is profound and powerful. Thank you, Professor. So we need justice, not tea for Africa, our home. Let's support Africa and be unified. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Banutu. I think we can release you now, sir. IT. Dr. Margaret.
Yes. Thank you. That was powerful presentation from Professor Banutu. I wish that we had all day to have taken questions for Professor Banutu and to dive deeper, but I believe that he has given us enough for us to meditate on, to marinate on as people of Africa, and it will help us in knowing how to position ourselves when it comes to fighting for this justice and reparations that we are all looking for. We are all yearning for. Now we are down to the wire. Samuel, have we? I will encourage all the participants, the viewers, to send in your questions, even if we're not able to answer them on this call, which we cannot. We are wrapping up now, but we will be able to send them to the speakers. If we do invite them for an upskill session, which we are thinking about, then we'll be able to go ahead and address those questions in that upskill session. So keep sending them. Media, keep gathering those questions for us. They will be needed. They will be important. Samuel, I believe that this was time well spent. Would you agree?
I do. I don't for a minute regret being here. And of course, doing this with you, Dr. Margaret. Thank you so much for the opportunity and for being very patient. Really, the internet has really dealt with me today.
Speaking of reparations, I think that the most important deliverance that Africa needs is the deliverance from poor internet and poor electricity. I think that if any reparations are needed and any justice is needed and any healing for the African continent in this era, those two elements are very important. Electricity and internet are what's driving the world economy today. If we don't have power, how can we be trading online? How can we be marketing our businesses online? How can we be attracting export opportunities? And how can we be attracting investors for our businesses, and to even attract people to come and buy from us if we're not able to even connect with them virtually? Because we live in a virtual world now. We're advancing. So when I see Africa investing so much money in AI workshops and AI summits and AI seminars, I keep asking myself, what are we doing? Are we really ready for AI? I don't think we are. I don't think we should even be talking about AI right now. We should be talking about all our summits and trainings should be focused on how do we correct our internet. Then when we have a correct internet, then we can now jump on the board. We're always going to be left behind. Of course, by the time we jump on the wagon to talk about AI would have already advanced, and maybe we have moved on to a whole new system. But we need to start from the grassroots. If we have no good internet, we have no business funding AI projects and AI workshops and AI summits. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of our energy. People are learning things they cannot apply. Africa, let's wake up. Let's utilize our time wisely, because time flies and the world is advancing. That's how we want to close this Africa Day celebration. That's a challenge to you, the young people. We have a lot of you in IT who are talking about AI. Can you first help us to fix our internet problem? Then we can meet you in your AI projects. That's all I have to say for that. And then I believe I want to share some beautiful announcements, and then we close in prayer. So thank you for joining the Africa Day session today. This is one of many events. This is the Influence Africa Forum, is one of other platforms that we do utilize in Coaches of Influence Foundation to bring education and knowledge sharing to the continents of the world. So the next session we have is next on Saturday, June 14th. Samuel, you'll help me to advertise the next event, and I'll take the next event so we can flow. So the next event we have is June the 14th. We have Diplomatic Talk Series, and which is similar to what we are doing today, Influence Africa Forum, but this one is under the Coaches United Nations Simulations program, and it is diplomacy. So we are going to be talking diplomacy, environment, and diplomacy on June the 14th in celebration of World Environment Day. That is not it in July, but before we talk about the diplomacy, that's next Saturday, somewhere, next Saturday, we have a very
Yes.
lively, empowering, liberating event called our upskill mentoring session, relationship management. And next week, I want all the ladies out there, give me a high five, ladies. I want you to come with all your girlfriends. We have a tea party next Saturday because it's about time we know what these men need so we can stop crying and weeping about our disappointments. We are going to hear from a panel of men to tell us what men need in a relationship, whether it's friendship, so that you stop wearing those mini skirts to the office thinking that that gentleman at work is interested in dating. He may just be interested in a friendship. So stop going to the cutting your skirt shorter and shorter, and going home always feeling like when he doesn't compliment your new hairdo, you get all shattered and all broken. He is not interested in dating. He just wants to be a friend. So we need to learn to differentiate between love and friendship. And we need to know what to do in these relationships. Yes, because he's your boyfriend doesn't mean you need to have a password to his phone. These are things that we need to learn. So next week, and for us that are married, I cannot wait to hear what my husband needs, because I'm ready to accelerate my marriage to another level. So if you're ready to accelerate your relationships to another level, please, your relationship with gentlemen, please don't miss next Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, come, so that whatever the panelists miss, you can tell us what you need. We want to have a cordial relationship. Relationship next Saturday is open to the public, so get your girlfriends ready to join us. And then after that, we have the 14th of June, we have the Diplomatic Talk series, and it's going to be for World Environment Day celebration. Samuel, take it.
I'm trying to access my list for events. I can't find it.
I'll take it now. For the,
I apologize.
No worries, no worries. I hear you giggling over there about the relationships. Bring your girlfriends too. Those ones that have been putting you in a funny position because they're just your friends, and now they want more than a friendship, and you don't know how to tell them. I'm not. Bring them all to we'll address them for you. Bring all of them to the session. Yeah. So International Youth Day, Youth Skills Day. It's coming up July 15th. Get ready. We will be bringing the announcements your way soon on how to engage with us on July the 15th for International Youth Skills Day. Then we have International Youth Day coming up on August the 9th. That's also coming up August the 9th. I'm telling you, we have the Alumni Sports Day that's coming up on July the 19th. So we have a lot of activities coming up that are very, very exciting. You don't want to miss it. And then in November, we close the year with our the Gambia International Model United Nations Conference. And it's coming up on November the 8th. Watch out for details. Enroll, register, invite your friends, get on board. We have some very interesting events to take us to the third and fourth quarter of 2025. Thank you very much, everyone. Samuel, you can share your parting words. We love you. We appreciate you for being part of Africa Day celebration today via our Influence Africa Youth Forum platform. And we have heard, we have learned. Let's go out. Let's be empowered. Let's implement. For me, this is all I have for you. Samuel will part with you, and then we close in prayer until I come your way again. Keep being a Pan-Africanist. Keep pushing the African agenda. Keep making Africa the tree of life, and keep giving your best to the continent of Africa and the people of Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret. I think before we go, Professor Banu shared that he has drafted reparation policy for Africa and her descendants, and we'll be very happy to share it. So I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you. I think today, in today's program, we have really reflected on history, we have challenged the present, and also imagined a more equitable Africa. So I think that the conversation, like I said earlier on, doesn't really stop here. We as young people have an important role to play in, pushing the needle forward when it comes to reparation. So thank you all so very much for your time. Thank you for your messages. Thank you for participating in today's program. We are really glad that you were able to do so. Thank you so much. It is time for closing prayer, Dr. Margaret. We started in prayer, and I think it is only befitting that we end in prayer. So, if you don't mind, can you lead us in closing prayer?
Is Sadibu in the house?
Sadibu is not in the house.
Sadibu is not. Okay, I'll pray and then we can call it a day. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this Africa Day celebration. Thank you for giving us a platform, Influence Africa Youth Forum, through COIF, Coaches of Influence Foundation. We thank you, Lord, that what we have learned today, you're going to empower us by your spirit to put it into practice. We are the children of Africa. We are Africa's assets, and Africa cannot move until we contribute. Give us wisdom to know how to contribute in our small spheres, that we do not wait until we are promoted to a high level in leadership to start contributing. But from where we are, whatever age we are in, we will see the place, the position, the sphere that we can influence to bring healing to Africa, to bring reparations to Africa, to bring justice to Africa, and above all, to bring transformation and development to the continent of Africa. We thank you for Africa and her people, and we pray, God, that your light will continue to shine in the continent. We refuse that we are a continent of darkness, and we declare and claim that we are a continent of light. And may that light shine from the continent and influence all the nations of the world. In Jesus' name I have prayed. Thank you. Amen.